Hi, this is Professor Neil Foote for Media Management. Today we're going to be talking about budgeting and forecasting, one of those nitty gritty functions that all leaders and managers need to understand, but also one of those nitty gritty functions that we all tend to run away from because we are not numbers people. Well, let me walk through our slides here and try to give you a little bit more context of what the budgeting process involves. It's all about setting priorities and goals by not only the department, but also the company itself. It's figuring out the capital budget needs. And what we mean by capital budget needs is we'll learn are those big assets, those big budget items. It's about the process of actually creating the budget itself, the budget, the plan that will guide the company to provide the financial and human resources that we need to be successful, whether that's a media company or any company. And then this process of forecasting, figuring out how much we're going to spend, how much revenue we're going to bring in, and what kind of projects and capital projects, computers, buildings, land, technology that we need to run the company. What is a budget? Let's be very clear. It is a vision, and this vision is tied very much to what the president and CEO of the company may want. And certainly, if it's a publicly traded media company, then it's tied to very much what the board of directors may have on what the financial goals of the company. It really lays out the mission and how a company is going to achieve your mission and goals. It really defines how many people that you're going to have and what kind of money you're going to have to not only pay those people, but also cover the cost of all the building, the equipment, the chairs, the lighting, all those things that go into running a business. Fundamentally, how much money you plan to generate, how much money you plan to spend, and what you're going to invest in. And that investment can take place in hardcore assets. Again, desks, computers, cell phones, software, or even technology and or people themselves in terms of training and development. There are all sorts of types of budgets, and those will vary based on the company that where you work. But for the most part, they really do fall into several key buckets, and I want to kind of address several areas here that some of our readings do address. The notion of a line item budget is just that. It's each line has a category, sometimes a chart of accounts, if we want to use accounting terms, and the amount of money that you have to spend. As we'll learn a little bit later, it's important that you spend those dollars because if you don't spend them, then you're being viewed as someone who's not an efficient money manager. Or manager in itself. If you overspend, then that really gives you it may cause some problems. A block budget might be told that you're given $100 or $1,000 or $10 million, and your goal is to figure out how you want to spend that and meet the budget as best as possible. There are usually several types of funds within the budget. Restricted funds, where you lock in those dollars for specific purposes. And allocated funds basically says once you lock those funds in for the most part, you're using that money for that specific task. And you're managing your budget tied to each of those line items in the budget and how you've assigned a budget number to that throughout the course of the year. Let's talk about some of the steps in creating a budget. Budgeting for managers, our text for this section, right, by Sid Kemp and Eric Dunbar, really offer some fundamental framework for this. And part of this, for some of you who are from the news side, really it ties very much to how you report a story. But let me walk through the 8 steps that Kemp and Dunbar referred to. The gathering of the information. What does this mean? This means looking back at the history of your budget from the past year, perhaps in the past couple years, to figure out what the spending patterns have been, how much revenue you've spent, and really looking at from a capital standpoint, how do you need to upgrade computers or phone systems or software or nowadays cybersecurity in some cases, and then really understanding what you need now to run your operation and what your future needs may be. As we've all read, and as media companies are struggling with this in real time to figure out how to anticipate those needs down the road, yeah, in very challenging times. We've got to understand each line of the budget, right? So that's where software like Excel or some of the spreadsheet program comes into play. I strongly encourage each and every one of you to at least take a basic course in Excel. I think this is one of these functions that and skill sets that you will come across either in journalism or somewhere in your role as a manager. While you're here at the Mayborn, you can take advantage of some of the free classes available through lynda.com. In understanding each line, details do matter, right? Budgeting is a very precise, in some cases, process, and a very squishy process in other ways. But details do matter. How much did you spend last year? Not only last year, but last month. If it's a certain month, as you look at the patterns of spending, what are those things that happen during that month every year that you need to anticipate and build your budget around? It's part looking into the crystal ball, so predicting the future. How, and I love this phrase that Camp and Dunbar use, reasonable and calculated guesses. I remember the first time I was handed a budget to run while I was at the morning news. I had no training. I had to learn it on the fly in terms of what monies I had, how much had been allocated to me. I had to literally sit down with my coworkers to understand what the needs were, and this was running a digital operation. What kind of computers, what kind of software we needed, what other supplies. And then in some cases, again, I didn't have to directly do this short term, but it's also interviewing customers to understanding what kind of demand on your services they might have now and in the future. The once you kind of pull a budget together, it's kind of looking at the big picture. Does it make sense at all? Does it all add up? Are the big items correct? How have you kind of accounted for everything that you can possibly think of to make sure that whatever you're presenting, you understand as the manager of the budget, and particularly if you're presenting it to your boss or your boss's boss. This fifth step of finishing the budget is an even more detailed review of the big items and the small items, and doing a hard critical analysis of understanding what you need, what you don't need, what you want to have, what you wish you could have, and then sorting those all out so that you actually work within the budget that you have. This notion of building in projected increases and percentage increases is also interesting, and part of understanding the philosophy of your company. The issue here, it becomes how much tolerance is there in budget increase, or have you gotten specific instructions to decrease your budget and where you have to make those changes. Step 6, looking at those assumptions. In every budget, you're going to have a sheet or comment section that will explain all of your line items, the increases or decreases, or why they're staying the same, whether there was a change that happened last year that you're going to make an adjustment for this year, whether there are changes you anticipate in the year ahead that you need to build in, and you'll want to explain those assumptions in your document so that someone reading the budget will try to get inside your head to understand what's important and what's not. You want to check your work, sitting down with your team or other key staff members to make sure that with a fresh set of eyes and minds that you haven't missed everything, that you've included everything, that you have some key people on your staff or within the company who can actually challenge you on some assumptions that you've made to make sure that once you deliver your budget, and you're delivering the budget as in step 8, takes place in several forms. There's a formal submission of the budget as a document, and then in many cases you're sitting down in front of the management team to justify why you want to spend the money you have and how you're going to make the money that you're proposing, and you really have to understand everything in that budget because the managers there are counting on you to make sure that you are fully responsible for everything that you sign off on in those numbers. Right. The other point is before I kind of go to key budget terms is to realize that budget then is reviewed by the management team. They finalize it, and then by the beginning of the fiscal year, that's what you will live up to. In some cases, you may even be compensated on how successful you are in managing your budget, whether coming in, particularly coming in under budget, or certainly at budget is critical. Let me kind of dive into a couple key terms that you may have heard in your experiences in working, and that are important for you to understand as a manager. Cash versus accrual, and this is something I had to learn constantly. I had to remind myself as I was sitting in front of my managers presenting my budget. Cash, literally the money that you have on hand. Accrual is tracking all the actions that generate money, even if you haven't received the money. And another concrete example of this, it says you may have budgeted, let's say, $1,500 for training and development in the month of January. Depending on your company, in many cases, if you do not use all of that, if you don't use the $1,500, you potentially can accrue it into the next month and move it forward to the next month. Hey, there's just a student here that wants to see you. I don't know if you're seeing him. Sure, you can send back. Yeah. Hey man, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Are you busy?
I am, but I got a few minutes.
Okay. I was just here. I'm never here at this time.
Yeah, I usually am not either. So
let's
go on. Take a seat, man.
Doing good. How are you doing?
This has been a wild week for you.
Oh, it's been crazy. It's been. Yeah, I was just here talking to Professor Reeves for my reporting public affairs class and stuff. So, that class is killing me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Good. So. Good. So you're surviving. This is kind of like the wind down the season, at least for the Mavs. Right?
Yeah.
But baseball's about to kick up next week. So.
Thankfully, it's the wind down for the Mavs. I hope they don't make playoffs, and then they won't.
I can't see them if they even get close. I mean, how do you blow a 13-point lead?
I know, that was crazy. That was crazy. But yeah, and that's going on, and then graduation in less than 2 months.
Yeah, man, it's happening.
I had like a panic attack last week.
Oh, nice.
Because like I went to get my cap and gown, and like I didn't know we have to take pictures.
Oh yeah.
And so the guy tells me to put on a cap and gown, and I'm like, "Are you just assuming I'm gonna pass all my classes?"
Oh yeah, man. This is all like it's like we're counting. Yeah, it's all a done deal.
I know. I was like, this is a lot of pressure on me. I was like, what if I don't pass and I have all these pictures of me in a cap and gown? I was like, it's like the teams that before they win the Super Bowl and stuff, they have like t-shirts printed out. I'm just like, man, if these photos leak out and I fail a class and I don't graduate, then this is going to be terrible. But yeah, so I mean graduation is kind of stressful, and then thankfully work is hitting a little bit of a soft spot. But now we have this guy where the morning news is moving buildings next month. Yeah. And so we're in the midst of all that, and then we also just lost a staffer, and so now everyone is having to work more. it's just a crazy time right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we can just get you through May 13th,
I
and
know.
then you could cruise to your 4 jobs without a problem,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
it's this student thing is your fifth job that's the killer.
Yeah, it's really just this one class. It's really just reporting public affairs, just because I have to do so much reporting for it.
Yeah,
Obviously, reporting public affairs,
yeah,
but all the other classes, like sports journalism is a breeze, nutrition, whatever, and then mass comm law. I thought that was going to be a really hard class, and
yeah,
it's challenging, but it's very doable,
yeah.
and and a lot of it is just doing stuff for class and in class, not like reporting 10 different.
Yeah, you got to find
Yeah,
time to catch up with people,
yeah,
interview people, and write the story. So it's a lot to juggle.
yeah. So I mean, other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing. It was tough like up until Dirk hit 30,000 because there was so much stuff going on for that.
Yeah,
I didn't think when the season started, everyone said they were going to do that, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it ended up like I guess maybe because the Mavericks suck, and so they're like, well, this is our shining moment of the season.
yeah,
They just made it such a huge deal. So I like that feature that I worked on.
yeah,
Worked on that for like a month and a half. And initially, it was just going to be a short little story
hmm,
about what it's like to play with Dirk. And then they're like, no, like you can really go into detail about this. And I was like, oh man.
yeah.
And so it was just this whole
No,
ordeal.
and I think they realize it's like, man, the season's gonna be, it's tanking, so we
Yeah,
need to celebrate something. So let's
yeah,
spin it on Dirk and
yeah.
celebrate his
Everyone loves
success.
Dirk.
Right, exactly. I mean, he's like the only player in the NBA that the NBA and everyone will just say, oh
Yeah,
man, white or black, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, Dirk's the man. I mean, it's
yeah,
like I was saying the other day. I was in Atlanta last week and someone was talking about, oh yeah, man, Dirk's the man. I'm like,
yeah,
I looked at it, I said, really? It's like, no, man, he's the man. I was like, oh, okay, good. I mean, I'm in the bubble, so I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know.
yeah.
Because the question is like, well, do Mavs have any world class players? It's like, well, yeah, Dirk is it. So that's why it's like, for Cuban, it's like, he's like, still,
Celebrated.
right, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
Inject him with some cyborg stuff to keep him around another 3 years until they can figure out the rest of the team.
yeah. It's been crazy. How about your semester? How's it going?
The
It's been a
same.
while.
It's. I knew after spring break, it's always madness going into the last 6 weeks, and then I mean, I was have been re-engaged by one of my clients to do this kind of week-long project, so I'm going to be out next week, so that's kind of intense.
For your PR thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
you talk
So
about me doing so much. You're over here teaching classes and have your own PR firm.
it's insane. It's like it's kind of like and I knew that April always is when all these things like converge. It's like between end of school year stuff and not only classes, but then the committees within that I do with the school. And then it's like inevitably I
You do
can
like
have
NABG or
yeah. I mean, I've got like
all that stuff.
PRSA
Yeah,
stuff, so I mean that's fortunately it was pretty low key. I can I don't have to, I'm really trying to offload that and trying to to my board, but they're just like knuckleheads. So I really, I'm gonna have to do a good fellas,
yeah,
it takes some baseball bats to stuff it, or let the helicopter like in the Godfather,
yeah,
have a meeting, leave the room, and let the helicopter take them. It's like, I don't know, but I'm at the point. It's anyway. So that's
yeah.
anyway. So, but it's all good. I mean, it's and it's it's the mission I accepted. So
Yeah.
I can always change that mission if I need to.
Mhm.
Uh, there's just so much. I mean, it's a juggling of. So I'm from the business model that I have to have for my own health to survive until. I mean, I say this until my daughter gets up and running. So but I know that's
Yeah.
she does have a summer internship. So yay,
Yeah.
that'll be good. So she'll be in London for at least the foreseeable future.
Oh, okay. And her boyfriend there too, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, so that works out. She's coming home next month for about a month just to hang out.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll be good to see you.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
she's getting the it's just getting that first yes, and so she's really her whole attitude on life has changed, and she's really excited,
Yeah.
and focused. So
Yeah.
that's really good. That's really
That's really awesome.
good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm not.
That's all right. Well,
you've
you've been on my mind. I saw your post earlier today, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy!" I hadn't seen you because I've been running too, but I was.
Yeah, me too. I've been like so busy. I've been trying because like I know your office hours are Tuesday, Thursday, 2:30 and 4:30.
Yeah, but I know yeah.
I'm never here, and so I usually try to come down here just to visit you, but like lately I've had so much stuff going on. Every time like I'm transcribing for whoever and things like that, and so it's been so busy. And then like today, Professor Reeves' office hours are at 10:30, and so I was like, I know I didn't know if you were here or not, and I was like,
yeah, no, it's all by chance.
Least.
Usually most Wednesdays are not, but we have got job candidates in for the associate dean's position, so I had to come
cool.
up for that.
Yeah. Oh man, speaking of Dean, like Dean Bland actually like found me on Twitter and complimented my Dirks story.
Yeah,
that was so crazy. Like that was so cool for me.
Yeah, when I was I saw it, I was like, man, I shared it with the dean and Jim Dale. I mean, that's the kind of thing that one we want to celebrate you, but it's also as we've talked about, and you talked, other students need to see that it can be done. I mean, it's not what we say our students do well, they really do because they create opportunities for themselves. We try to create opportunities, and you all take advantage of them, and you know your classmates. Some of them are just kind of like, oh, I can't find anything. And that's why
I always offer to like all my like teachers and professors. I was like, I will come talk to students because last year I did that for Professor Gitto, and like so many of those students like reached out to me, and like I helped them get in touch with different PR people that they needed to talk to so that they could start getting experience because like I'm 22 years old and still in college, and like I don't think like I'm very far from where I want to be, but at the same time I feel like I have a decent foot in the door, and it's just
you worked really hard. I mean, it's like from 3 years ago sitting here and saying, hey, I sent out 100 emails. And, I got 2 back. So I mean, and you were kind of like, well, I don't know, I'm just trying it, but so you've had to grind it out, and that's the reality, and that's it's not. Oh, let me send an email, and suddenly someone's going to say, hey, come on.
But, it's funny because, like, all those PR people I send emails to, whenever they come to town with the Mavericks and stuff like that, they still remember me as that guy that sent the email.
Saying. That's the difference, right? Yeah. Saying, well, did you send it? It's like, maybe no one acknowledged it, but as soon as you say, the kid sent that, you keep on sending me that stuff. Cool, keep it up, good stuff, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't even know you got it.
Yeah. And like for me, I understand I have the benefit of like my name's not Mike Jones,
Right.
so it's like Saad Yusuf. People remember that name.
There's one advantage that you could think of, for these times you live in, it's kind of like, shoot, that's either a good or a bad, right?
Exactly. And so like a lot of those people, I'll be like, I sent you an email. Like it literally happened last week. Raymond, the PR guy for the Warriors, I come and I was like, hey, nice to meet you, nice to see you. My name's Saad, and he was like, oh, I remember you from a few years ago and stuff like that. And I was just like, I was just kind of shooting in the dark, and it just and he never replied or anything like that. But he remembers me now, and so it's just kind of a cool that I always tell people like.
All you gotta do is try, right?
All you gotta do is try.
You never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Every email you sent, someone is seeing. Unless it goes into spam or clutter.
Right.
But 90% of the time people see that. Even with my PR stuff, I'll send out releases, and I may not get a call back, but same like you, I'll run into somebody at a conference or here at a meeting in town or someplace. Oh yeah, Neil, thanks, got your stuff, but. Now, keep on sending maybe we'll find something that we're interested in covering, but I can't not do it because the day I don't is the one opportunity I miss. So
that's why also with what you're saying that everyone sees that stuff. Like it's real. One thing I realized when I was sending those hundreds of emails was just that the subject line is so important because it's like a first impression. It's like so it's like if your subject line is in all lowercase letters and just says like hey, open this email or something like that, then it doesn't get through. But if it looks professional, like just your subject line, like intern opportunity dash my name or something like that, then like someone will actually click on it because it'll look legitimate or something. That's something that I realized pretty later. Tip. So
yeah, well, we'll I'll do a podcast with you on 10 steps on getting.
Professor Giddo, he read my Dirks story and he was like, he emailed me and he said that like, oh yeah, the Mayborn might do like a profile on you or something. I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
There you go. Yeah. Well, if you need a publicist, yeah. When SI comes at you, just like when Mike and Mike want you to have on you.
Yeah. All right, we'll do.
All right, man.
All right, I'll swing by in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you a text before.
2 more months, man.
Yeah.
You're going to do it. Just focus on what you need to get done, like we talked a couple months ago. You know what you got to do here. Just,
yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah,
I know you can. Yeah, I mean, you don't sleep anyway, so I know, what's one less hour of sleep a night? That's kind of like, well, that's the difference between 2 or 3. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Do you want to close the door?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
It's me.
Yes.
Heads up. Next curriculum committee meeting. We want you to come and pitch business journalism as a class.
Okay.
You can use a fancier name if you want to.
All right.
But we really are. We're going to invite you and want you to come because it's been a 4210 long enough. It needs to go.
To be legit.
Everybody needs to talk about it.
Okay. When's the next meeting?
Well, we haven't set it up yet. It'll probably be on a Wednesday around this time.
Wednesday. Okay.
Okay. I'll let you know.
Yeah, just give me an hour and I'll figure stuff out. No, I need at least 2 hours, an hour to get up here and then an hour to figure out what I'm going to say. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Let's talk about tracking expenses because this also becomes another critical part that we have to do as managers. There's the estimated expenses. So in your budget, you're going to estimate how much you think you're going to spend based on what you did in the past year, whether it's the same or maybe a percentage increase, or if you're if you're being asked to cut your budgets less. Over the course of the year, you're going to have what you estimated, and then you'll have your actual amount. So from month to month, you will have a comparison. So I planned on spending $10,000. I've actually spent $8,000, and your variance is that difference between your actual minus estimated. And again, depending on the culture of your company, at the end of the day, you want it to be under budget or at budget. Once you go over budget, that's where you get into, you have some issues. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. The other parts of the statement are the income statement, or sometimes known as the profit and loss statement. And fundamentally here, and I'm going to bounce to the next slide here so I can walk through what we have here. This is a sample spreadsheet that I did for one of my many projects many years ago. As I said, I have run several companies. I've pitched and created business plans for several companies. Many of them, were short-lived or really were just proposals. But here's an example of an income statement. The revenue estimates on publishing, broadcasting, internet, and commerce for a 5-year basis. And each of these line items, publishing, broadcasting, internet, commerce, special services, were also tied to another series of spreadsheets where I created a budget and a forecast based on those estimates and built in projected increases for each year based on the success of that business. On the expense side, you can see that's kind of how much I spent. You see that I've included primarily at the top here the salary. So the full-time salaries, benefits estimated here at 25%, any commissions, signing bonuses, staff bonuses, and a total. And so what you'll see here, that is my total revenue and my salary and expenses. The other part of my expenses are my administrative costs, kind of what it takes to run the business. As you look at this spreadsheet here, you'll see the details here. As you can see, this was a communications company doing printing and books. The cost for estimating the web hosting, fees and commissions for my salespeople, how much we were planning to pay for freelancers and photographers, what we're going to spend on graphics, all kind of fundamental, and then kind of the nitty gritty, the phone and network expenses and accounting and bookkeeping. Everything needs to be accounted for. The rent, that's your overhead, whether you're buying or renting a facility, the travel and entertainment, whether you're taking people out to lunch or going to conferences, all of that needs to be accounted for. And then you'll see utilities, insurance, taxes, personal or professional development and training, how much it's going to cost to recruit talent to your team. And then legal expenses and bad debt, just to cover yourselves in case something happens. On the below the line, you'll see this is where the capital expenses. These are the big ticket items: computers, scanners, software, furniture. These expenses are figured out at cost. These usually aren't annual expenses. In this case, as you can see, I've estimated the number of staff that I'm going to have each year. So I've got to account for the number of people that I'm going to have and the additional equipment on top of that. All right. Part of this projection then is the bottom line. I've got my total revenues, I've got my total operating expenses, and my EBITDA, earnings before income, taxes, and income and taxes. Becomes what you see at the bottom here, over the course of time, which is one of the real numbers you want to look at. Your balance sheet, in many cases, is a snapshot of the financial condition of the company at any particular point in time. Your balance sheet is going to have your assets, what you own, your liabilities, what you owe, whether that's loans, whether that's investment money or dividends you've got to pay out, and then equity, how much you own of the company or your owners own of the company, and then the shareholders' equity, what other people own and what that percentage is. Now, granted, some of the equity and shares, certainly applies to publicly traded companies, but even as a private company, there may be shareholders, depending on the structure of your company, that also own some pieces of the company and are expecting some return on investment over a course of time based on their investment. A statement of cash flow. This is literally you'll see statements of basic cash flows from operating activities. How much cash operations are generating? How much money is coming in? Remember, there's always a flow of cash, even though you've estimated $100,000 in revenue. Sometimes that money does not come in within that month. Sometimes there's a 60-day or a 90-day or 120-day turnaround. So based on when that money is coming in, you've got to manage your budgets accordingly. Cash flows from investment activities, if you have property or securities, and then this notion of cash flows from financing activities, if you've had to most companies, particularly larger companies, have short and long-term debt. In some of those cases, that actually is helping finance the company. Again, I don't want to get into this in great detail, but I want you to understand that your income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow are three fundamental documents that you want to know for all companies, public or private. Mastering the budget process, negotiating, improving your estimation skills, and timing of your budget preparation. Let me go into a few details on this. and these really stress some of the things we talked about earlier in this lecture. You've got to understand the current and future vision of your company's executives. This is important to you as a manager. You've got to communicate with them so that you understand what they're expecting, how you're managing, what you expect, what vision you have, and how you want to use the money that you have available and the people you have available. You want to understand the issues that matter most to the company, to the executives. What's their vision? What do they want to accomplish? What are the pet peeves that that they have, that you hear that they talk about? You also want to understand, how they're making decisions about certain budgets. Let's be for real. Sometimes executives in a company value their managers based on the budgets they have and the trust that they have in individuals to manage that budget, so that even that in good times they know that individual has really done great, and then when times get tough, you can manage it accordingly, that even if they don't hit their budget numbers, they have the confidence in you as an individual, that you know what you're doing, you can make the appropriate fixes and improve upon that budget in months or the year ahead. Your estimation skills, well, look, if you're right on budget or under budget, celebrate. Learn what you did right and do it again next year. If your estimations is off, then you need to step back. You need to bring in your team and help. And if you're the team, then you've got to understand, what did you do wrong? What did did you get too optimistic? Were you too pessimistic? Did you actually do a lot better than you anticipated? And you want to figure out how you can better plan for that. What were the unusual circumstances? Did you lose a major client? Was there a change in the economy? Was there a natural disaster? Was there something that happened during that month or quarter or period that affected your business at the end of the day? You got to learn from your mistakes. It's about looking forward. You can't, cry over spilled milk. I mean, look, you will make mistakes in the budgeting process. I made a lot of them early on because I was learning on the fly. If you communicate well with your executives and learn more from them, you'll get better at this. At the end of the day, you just got to fix it. Company executives, CEOs, CFOs, don't really want excuses. They want results. Yeah, that's just the hardcore reality. So fix it. Make sure you don't repeat the same problems, and that you make significant changes to address the problem. And once you figure out those problems, explain them. Explain how you made those changes and how you made improvements on those. Or if you continue to hit roadblocks, you need to be very clear on how you can where you need help in getting through those roadblocks in some way. In conclusion, let's look at the broader questions for every budget. How would you assess the current financial state of your company? Are you generating a profit or loss? How much profit, how much loss? These are questions you need to understand from your management team. Are you doing better or worse than the past, and what are the factors that are affecting you? So that's why doing a SWOT analysis, doing some of these matrices that look at the BCG growth analysis that will look at how you compare to your competition. What are you doing to improve your company and your budget to address the issues that seem to be causing a problem? If you're hugely successful, how do you manage growth? How do you, if things aren't going well, and that's, a case for many media companies, how do you manage shrinking your company but still remaining effective and keeping your brand and the brand qualities that your audience expects in the best light? And then, that's a sense of competition, how you're assessing your success versus your competition, whether you're a private or public company. You need to keep track of these items so that you're fully understanding where you fit in the scope of all that you're doing. I hope this helps you get a better feel for the budgeting process. And think of this as a big puzzle. In many cases, a perfect budget has all of these items in it, and you put one together. And I can tell you, in chatting with any number of CFOs or budget executives, Every budget is tough. Yeah, even when companies are doing well, when you're doing well, the expectations are high. When you're doing poorly, there's a lot of pressure on you to turn those around. But ask questions, find good mentors, and really look at this as a very careful, strategic process that helps manage and execute the vision of the company.